About a year ago, almost a year ago, I made a video called "You Don't Need a Change of Scenery, but a Change of Character." And I got some constructive criticism about that, saying that how about people in war zones or people who are starving, etc., or people who are in really challenging climates, should they just change their thinking, change their character, or do they really need a change of place? And whenever I hear these sort of extreme scenario arguments, I sort of think that I explained it well enough that some people, the only obstacle to accepting that argument remains only to be those very extreme scenarios that none of them themselves have ever encountered, and that's okay. I don't mean to criticize anyone. That just means that we just sometimes justify our daily regular behavior, our daily regular mistakes and things that we could improve on. We justify it by going to such extreme examples so that we don't have to bother changing ourselves so much. And I understand that. So today, I thought I'll just pick another thing that Seneca said about the topic of, rather than trying to outrun your problems, that you should stay exactly where you are and deal with them head on. That the only way is not around your problem, but through your problem. He said, it is not nearly as important where you go as it is who you are when you go. It sort of comes out to the same thing, but it's a little softer, isn't it? It says it's not as important. Because of course, no one would choose to live in a place that's hostile to them, either physically or mentally in some capacity. But the point is that we should be able to, and we have many examples of this in history, that we could endure whatever life throws at us, because we're not in control of what life throws at us. We can only try to adapt and make sure that we do the best that we can. And I think it was also Seneca or Epictetus, one of the Stoics, who said, anywhere where a life can be led, a good life can be led. Something like that, I'm paraphrasing, but you get the idea. Because when something is truly unbearable to our constitution, truly unbearable to life, we sort of can't live like that anyway. And when we can live, it will be mostly an issue of the way we think about it, the way we cope with it, rather than the place itself, because that's not under our control. But what is under our control is to make the best of it. So whenever we feel in daily life that we have had enough of work, have had enough of certain people, have had enough of the cold, we tend to want to change the scenery. We think we need a change of scenery. We need to change the location that we're at, rather than changing what's wrong. And don't we get angry? Don't we get resentful? Don't we resent the situations we're in or the people we're around? And don't we have that anger in us or that jealousy? Surely we've all been jealous. Surely we've all do that at some point. So what do we expect from going to another place? Aren't we going to be resentful people then, and angry people and jealous people? How is that going to change just because we're changing the place we're at. At best, it's a distraction. And that's why I think some people, many people, think running away from your problems, literally, physically, helps the situation. Because they get distracted from their usual situation and just jump into another one, and it feels like a change in the positive direction. But really all it is, it's distraction. It's not dealing with the problems or not feeling the presence of the problems as much because, again, we're distracted. And usually in our home environments, whatever that may be, our usual environments, let's say, we don't have as many distractions. So the problems feel more present. They feel more imminent. But really, they're always the same. If we have temper issues, like I said, if we're envious people, or if we're overly ambitious people, too competitive, if we are people who lie and cheat and deceive, that's not going to change. We're not going to change just because we change our location. I am not changing as I am walking, or at least I am not changing because I'm walking. The solution is not to go to places that don't trigger our anger, don't trigger our resentment, our jealousy, our vices, whatever that they might be, our faults, but to work on the faults themselves. And that seems obvious enough. But we don't apply that in real life. It's sort of like telling someone who has a fear of spiders to avoid any and all places that a spider might be in. And that might be an okay precaution as one works on that problem. But no one would ever call that a solution. And just in the same way, if we run away from people or certain places or certain situations in life that we perpetually are in, we are not solving anything. We're only delaying, we're only distracting ourselves from the actual issue. And how to drop your anger and your resentment is what I'm discussing in this video and what I discuss in almost every video in a different, slightly different way. Philosophy is not to solve problems with a single idea, a single quote, a single discourse, but rather is to look at the issue at hand, the things that keep us from true happiness, from the person we know we want to be, we need to be, by looking at our faults and their remedies at a slightly different angle until we've looked at it from all angles. And that's when we grasp the issue, and that's when it clicks. So each video is a slightly different angle on essentially the same few things that keep us from everything, from the good life. And I felt like it was time again for a walking video, partly because right now I think it's below 30 degrees. My phone says that it feels like 16 or something. But what it doesn't say is that it's beautiful. There's no such thing as bad weather. We put that on the weather. We say it's cold. Well, we look at the temperature, that's an objective fact. And then we assign good or bad to it. We say, oh, it's cold, that's bad weather. It's rainy, that's bad weather. It's sunny and warm, that's good weather. And because of that association that we put on it, I have this whole trail, this state park, to myself right now. Not a single person that I've come across. And it's still beautiful. And that's just, of course, the smallest possible example, or even just an analogy that we can give to that really perception is everything, that our thoughts color the situations that we're in. We assign it the idea of good and bad, and we judge it according to that. And we do that ourselves. No one is doing that to us. And another reason I'm talking about it here is that just a few days ago, whenever I was here last or the time before, I too was just walking, moving from one place to another, but not really progressing, because I was in my mind and my mind was running in circles. Not necessarily in a bad way, but certainly I wasn't in the moment. I was thinking about other stuff, the past, the future, as we all do. But really not really getting anywhere, just thinking and just sort of repeating the same things and not making any progress, even though my body was moving. And I heard that shriek, that classic shriek that hawks do. Well, it's very distinct. And all of a sudden I was brought out of that state in which I was in this beautiful environment, taking a nice walk, but not really paying attention to it because there was all these things going on in my mind. And that brought me out of it. Immediately, I just wanted to look up to see where it came from. And I saw 3 hawks actually sort of going around, hovering almost over me, and presumably looking for little critters among the grass and everything. And I immediately thought to myself, wow, the things that go on in my head don't matter one bit. As soon as I come out of my head just 1 inch, everything that was so important, all of a sudden I realize has no importance to others, to other animals, to other people, to the world. It's really the world that I've built up in my own head that keeps me from living, because, as we said before, the present moment is all we have to live. All of life takes place moment by moment in the present moment. And because I was thinking of the future and the past or whatever, I was not in the moment. So I was alive, of course, but I was not really living because I was not in the present. And similarly, I looked at the hawks and thought, wow, all that really matters to them, perhaps ever, but especially right now in this moment, is to look for food. That's their mission, and that's what's going on in their lives, and that has all the importance in the world to them. To me, I never even think about it. And that goes for all people. Everyone has this world built up inside of them that is so important and everything's so crucial and everything's so imminent. And if things don't go a very certain way, it's going to end in catastrophe. And their whole life is going to take a whole different turn, and it's never going to be the same, etc. We have to realize that we all do that. We all have these worlds inside of our heads that don't matter to anyone else. I mean, just go walk around in a city, downtown area, wherever, and take a look at all the people who are running around, going to work, coming from work, doing other things, even if it's the weekend, whatever their mission is for that day. They're all walking around, and it's all so important. But it doesn't matter at all to us. We don't even know who they are, what they're doing. And sometimes we find out about the mission of the day or the mission of the life of someone else, and we just think, wow, that just seems not at all that important. I would never want to do that. But to them, it's everything. But we're no different. We do the same thing. And we have to understand that none of it is required. We are not born with any of these requirements, any of these missions, any of these deadlines, and all the people that we need to impress. We're not born with that. There's no God, no entity, no nothing in nature that tells us that we have to do this and that our life depends on it. There's none of it. It's all self-imposed. We've identified with these things. We've become one with them. So anything that threatens them, anything that threatens our missions, our goals for the day, for the month, the year, or our careers, our lives, all those missions, we've identified with them, and anything that is good for them is good for us, and anything that's bad for them has become bad for us. And of course, everything that we identify with, or anything that we identify with, could possibly identify with in the external world, is open to attack, is open for someone else to destroy it, to ruin it, to damage it, or needs other people to go well. It's not going to go well if certain people don't do certain things for those missions. And that's why it's so dangerous. And identity runs deep. One can, and many people do, identify with anything and everything. One can identify with anything. And as soon as we do that, like I said, it's opened up to the influence of the external world and everything that can happen to it there. So I've said it before, and I'll say it many more times. We have to drop those identities. We have to stop trying to be and making it our mission to be a good such and such, to have a good career, to have a good relationship, to have a good fulfillment of our dreams that we've set many years before for who knows why, probably in emulation and jealousy of someone else. That we too want to attain that, to be as good as them, or to be as influential as them, as liked as them. And we don't even think about it. We make it our mission, we make it our identity, and every day we get up to satisfy and to service those goals and those identities. Not realizing that not only are they unnecessary, but they are harmful to a good, happy life. But it's become habit, it's become identity, to get up and every day to service them. And we don't realize that all these things that we get up and service like a machine, none of it is required. None of it is necessary. In fact, like I said, none of it is beneficial. We have to pick things. We have to set goals and desires and wants based on whether it contributes to our own happiness and to the happiness of others, or to the well-being of others. There's no point in chasing an identity that was inspired by another person or by someone that you were in the past. Every stage of our life, if you realize it, is like a death. We used to be babies and infants, and Marcus Aurelius talks about this. We used to be babies, we're no longer babies, yet that person who was a baby is still alive, yet that baby is gone. That child has grown up now and is still alive, but where's the child? In a way, it's a death. That person is gone now. The person you used to be, caring about the opinions of a particular person. Once you realize